Hello, everyone. I'm Al Neely, Listen Up Podcast, and today we have my local District 3 Councilman, Michael Berlucci. Michael, say hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here.
Yes. Okay. It's been a while before I could get him here. Michael's been the councilman for District 3 for how long now, Michael?
For almost 6 years, going on 6 years now.
All right. So I've lived in my house for about 14 years.
Okay.
So that's a good part of that.
Yeah.
You are from the Virginia Beach area?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What made you decide to run for councilman in this area?
Well, I've been involved in volunteerism and public service for a long time, many, many years before I decided or even thought about becoming a candidate for city council.
Okay.
And my point of entry was really doing volunteer work and supporting organizations whose mission I am passionate about. And what I discovered in that work is that you need to work in partnership with people who make policy, whether that's your council member, your school board member, your state representative. I know those allergies are tough.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Your state representative or your federal representatives. It's very important if you want to be successful in any type of work related to our community that there's policymakers who share and support your vision, or at least at minimum who understand it.
Right.
We all need to be represented. We want to see ourselves in the government that serves us, well, no matter what level it is.
Right.
And so I became active in supporting candidates who I believed in, also engaging with candidates who I wanted to change their mind about a topic. And what that led to was, for me, learning a little bit more about the political process in Virginia Beach and in Virginia. And then, and so I was active in volunteerism. I was active supporting candidates. And then one day, the candidate in our district, not the council member from our district, who was Shannon Kane, preceded me. She resigned for reasons. She moved out of the district, so that was the right thing for her to do.
Right.
And Shannon Kane was a great council member. But all of a sudden, there was this vacancy in the council district where I lived. And because I had kind of been involved, I supported Shannon's campaign and supported other campaigns. I thought, well, if there was ever time when I was going to throw my hat into the ring, this is it.
Gotcha.
And so I did it.
Okay. So you're involved in a lot of things. What I want to do is, of course, I'll see Michael quite often, but I want to talk about some of the things he's involved in and why. His allergies are killing me.
No, it's crazy out there.
I know. You're involved in the Virginia cohort of the Hunt Institute for strengthening educational policies, right? So let's talk a little bit about that organization and what you do. You're the CEO of it, is that correct?
No, I just became CEO of Arts Alliance.
Okay. I'm sorry. I got those confused, but let's talk about the
Hunt Institute?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I received this invitation several months ago from an organization called the Hunt Institute, and they're based in North Carolina, but it's actually a national organization that really fosters bipartisan collaboration in education policy. And this is vitally important because as a city council member, we don't create education policy, but we fund education in Virginia Beach. So the way the system works in our city is that the school board makes the policies, but the city council appropriates the funds,
Gotcha.
the local funds from to the school division. And that represents about half of our budget, Al, which I think reflects the prioritization of public education in our community. I mean, education is fundamental to our community, to our system. And so I want to do everything I can to learn more about it, to become a better representative of the people, to be a better public servant. And this kind of cohort gives me the chance to connect with other people, school board members and mayors and city council members from across Virginia,
right,
who share that same. And whether you're a Republican or whether you're a Democrat, and in our city council is a nonpartisan, but we all have our affiliations, you know.
Yeah.
But whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, we have to work together. Most importantly, we're neighbors first.
Yeah,
And-
I think on a local level, it's not as polarizing. So, because like you said, we're all neighbors and we have to work together, and it's usually for the community, which supports the family. So,
That's it.
yeah, absolutely.
You nailed it.
Yes. I brought it up, but let's talk about the Art Alliance. You're the CEO of the Art Alliance, right?
Yeah.
Talk about
I'm
that.
about a month into the job,
Okay.
and so I'm still learning a lot. But the Arts Alliance has been around here for more than 30 years, and it's a regional organization that exists to support our cultural community in the region. And our cultural community is so vitally important.
Yeah.
I mean, arts and culture, it's how we express ourselves. It's how we can
Are you
connect. Oh, heck no, I'm not an artist.
You can't dance, or
I can't dance. I can't sing. I can't paint. And maybe that's why I like it so much.
Yeah, because you get to admire those people that do it.
They're
It's
so
amazing.
talented. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether you can draw or we're all artists in our own way, right?
Right.
We all are. Sometimes I think about public policy as an art. You know, you have to have an artful approach, a creative approach to the work we do. And then sometimes that, and I can give you some examples of that, but sometimes that creativity unlocks potential. And I think the same is true for arts and culture in Hampton Roads and in our world. Our relationship with creative expression is so important. I think it's often under-resourced. I think it's often undervalued. I think it's often underutilized. And so having the chance to be the CEO of Arts Alliance, which is a more than 30-year nonprofit organization that provides financial support and it provides regional leadership and advocacy for and with our cultural community,
Right.
is a great privilege for me to be a part of this initiative to uplift the cultural community and landscape in Hampton Roads.
Right.
That's my job.
Absolutely. What would you say the Democratic? Sorry,
You got it bad. You got the allergies bad.
it's really bad. Yeah, and it's been worse in the last few weeks. I think the pollen's been really heavy.
Yeah,
What is
to
the
say the least.
Yes.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. What is the demographic makeup of our district?
Our district.
Yeah. Do you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I know what my neighbors look like, but that's just
It's
my
very
street.
diverse. It's very diverse. I don't want to quote you the exact percentages because I'll get that wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's majority white, but a strong coalition of minority residents.
Okay.
The most largest share of that is black. Then there is, of course, a large Asian constituency in
That's
District
because
3
of
and in
the
Virginia Beach.
military.
Filipino American community is so strong in Virginia Beach,
Right.
but that's not the exclusive composition of the Asian contingent, but is the largest, I would say.
Yeah, they
There's
stand.
a lot of Filipino, and in particular in our district. I'm very, very. I have to celebrate the fact that the Philippine Cultural Center of Virginia is located in our district, which is
Oh, it
a
is?
highlight,
Oh, okay.
highlight feature for District 3, and then of course there's a very robust and growing Hispanic community in our district. So it's quite diverse. It's not the most diverse district in the city, but it's quite diverse. I love our district because I think it really is representative of the community where we live. It's politically diverse. It's ethnically and racially diverse, and I think it's a really very strong reflection of not only our city but our country.
Gotcha. Yeah, you worked with various organizations. Let's talk about some of the organizations that you work with. You work with, well, obviously, I'm a product of Norfolk State University, so HBCs, and we have several in the area, Hampton, and then Norfolk State. So you work with HBCs in what way?
I do.
HBCUs.
Mostly through first of all, I support HBCUs generally, but specifically how I've worked with them is with the UNCF. I don't know if you recall, but about 6 or 7 years ago, the United Negro College Fund came to Hampton Roads in the form of what they call the Mayor's Masked Ball. And that's an event, it's an annual fundraising event that raises money for HBCUs and for minority students across the country. But this particular, and this is something they do in every city. Atlanta has a Mayor's Masked Ball. LA has one. And it finally made its way to us, I mean, after lots of years. And at the time, the chairs of that ball, the inaugural ball, were my friends, Mark Johnson and Toya Sosa. And so they came to me and said, we would like for you to be part of our planning committee to bring the Mayor's Masked Ball to Hampton Roads to support UNCF Virginia. And I said, I'd be delighted to do that. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made. And I'm still a member of the planning committee all these years later. And we have this, it's a build up to this annual event. And locally, we've raised now millions of dollars for HBCUs and for minority students through the UNCF. And it felt very special that they recognized me last year with a special award because of that work. But even more so than that, it's relationships that I treasure, friendships that came out of that work. And so I always recommend to anyone, if they want to get it, just I don't know, just get involved. I mean, I could go further in that, but get involved, because it's not, I mentioned the award. The award is nice. I don't want to diminish it, but the award pales in comparison to the friendships that I made that came out of that committee, and how we've used those friendships to do other forms of good, to help each other through our own professional journeys. And I mean, I could go down the list, to show up for each other at birthdays and retirement ceremonies. I mean, it's really neat. And so it's become an important part of my life, I have to say.
Oh, good. You serve as the president of the Hampton Roads Pride.
Yeah.
Talk about that. What is that like?
And
how did you wind up?
It's a great experience. It was a great experience. It was a great learning experience. But, I'm a member of LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
And I grew up here, and it wasn't easy. I'm not saying it was so hard for me personally. I have supportive friends, supportive family, but I saw how hard it was for other people.
It's difficult.
Everyone has seen how much things have changed in the last 20 years in particular.
Yeah.
I mean, rapid change.
Right.
And for the better. And so all people really want is to live in dignity, to have equal opportunity. And this is people across the board. I don't care what category of person. To live with dignity, to be respected, to have equal rights, and to have an opportunity to have a bright future. That's all we want.
Right.
That's what everybody wants.
One of my reasons for doing this. And I talk to so many different people, because if you don't talk to people, you don't know that y'all all want the same thing.
Yeah.
And you're so caught up in your communities or your tribals relationships.
Yeah.
You separate yourself.
I even see people in groups that are historically oppressed, or minority groups who are tribal. And you got to get out of your bubble.
Yeah. You
got to get out of your bubble and connect with the people who are sitting next to you or live next to you, or they think differently than you do, but they're still good people. But anyway, but the point is, there wasn't opportunity. There wasn't. I mean, everyone I grew up with who was ambitious, or, and who was really smart, or they went somewhere else. Talk about brain drain. And this is true not just for LGBTQ. It's true. Are you from here?
No. I'm from Philadelphia.
Okay.
Large community.
Very large community. And I don't know if Philly has its own set of problems, I know, and I'm sure. But I don't care if you were LGBTQ or anything else. And I'm not comparing, because they're all different.
Correct.
But my point is, if you were different, you got out of here.
Yeah, because you need to go someplace where you need to go someplace where you feel it was safe and you're comfortable.
Well, and where you had examples. I mean, you try to be an example as you grow up, but where there were examples, we didn't have presidents of banks who were black back in the day. You know, we didn't have there weren't examples of minority people who were in leadership positions, in positions that people aspired to be in, whether it was a president of a bank
Right.
or whatever, right? Anyone who was different, it was pretty much the norm, the mainstream. And so that's how I got involved, because I thought we needed to change that in our community, and make sure that there's integration and opportunity and equality for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's great.
I also see the commonalities. That's one of the reasons I was committed to like UNCF, because even though the categories and the experiences are different, there is commonality in that we want some of the same things. And so there has to be cooperation, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Okay. So, should I ask you this at the beginning? What is the main focus or task of a council person?
I think there's 3 buckets. I've really, 6 years, I've really kind of figured this out.
It took 6 years, Mike?
So it didn't take 6 years, but but I'm really sure of it at this point.
Right.
One is that the council creates the city budget. And, you know, you've heard the old expression, your budget reflects your values. So that's vitally important. So where we invest hard-earned taxpayer resources, or equally important, create policy that
Right.
lets people keep more of their earnings, that the government doesn't confiscate to spend, is a reflection of our values. You know, I mentioned before that we prioritize education by investing more than half of our budget into education.
Right.
You can look at the budget and also see that we prioritize public safety, enhanced prioritization of flood protection, which I know is important for your neighborhood and mine.
Right.
So where the city council is 11 people who, in consultation with the people we serve, create a city budget. That's a roadmap. A budget is more than just numbers on a page. It's a roadmap for the future. And so that's a really important thing that we do. And we're in budget season right now. So we adopt a budget in May, and then our fiscal year starts on June 1st. So we're in the middle of that now.
Isn't there an event coming up where the public can attend?
A budget hearing,
Budget hearing. When is that?
April 16th
Okay.
at the convention center at 6 p.m.
Okay.
And then there's another one, I think, on the 22nd of April at City Hall at 6 p.m. And then we adopt the budget in early May. I forget exactly which date, on a Tuesday. So that's very important. The other thing that we do, and I'll try to keep my answers shorter, is land use decisions. So talk about a roadmap for the future. And I didn't realize this going into it, just how comprehensive and emotional land use decisions can be for a community. But, you know, do you rezone this piece of property for housing? What's the density? Do you preserve this space for recreation, or do you use it for economic development? Like, there's all kinds
Natural
of
preserves, yeah.
yeah. There's all kinds of really complex decisions around land use that
Right.
council members do. And the third and final thing, it's not a comprehensive list, but the 3 main buckets, I would say, is also now constituent services. So that means I got off the phone just on my way here, or earlier this morning, with a guy who had never met before, who called me because he was having some problems with the trash on his street, the waste management pickup. So that's something that it's what an honor to have your neighbors, people that you serve, call you for help and have a chance to help them. He's having a real problem, and it's my job to be his advocate within the city government, to make sure that his concerns are addressed and that he gets the services he pays for. That's just one example.
Right.
It could be that my neighbor's fence is falling apart and it's a hazard and it doesn't look good, and there's city codes that say you have to maintain your property. So it could be anything. It could be there's a pothole on my street. It could be that, and these are all real things. The school crossing markings in front of my child's school are worn because from the cars, and school's about to start. Could you get it repainted so that the kids can go to school safely? Those are all a volume of things that people reach out to their council member about, and I could spend another 3 hours giving you lists like that. But the amazing thing is that I get a chance to be their advocate in City Hall to make sure it's working for them.
Right. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was, I think in the last day or two, there was a vote, and it was a ruling by the Virginia Beach schools to a decision to remove all the D.
I saw that.
Yes. Were you aware of it?
Only in the most, broadest strokes, because we have the school board is independently elected body, elected by the people too. So I've got my hands full with those 3 buckets I just described.
Yeah.
So I'm not in the deep policy discussions about it, but I'm
Right.
aware of what they did. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think from what I was reading, they were talking about replacing DEI with DEO.
Opportunity, I think.
The Department of Opportunity
Yeah.
And Achievement. So what exactly, do you have any idea what that means?
I would not venture to explain their policy change, but I know a little bit about the background of it. Also, I'll give you the facts
Okay.
before I give you my opinion.
Okay.
The facts are that the schools receive federal funding,
Right.
and the president issued the executive order that removed
That wording.
DEI.
Right.
He removed the wording DEI.
Mhm.
And so my initial understanding is that it's an attempt to comply with the federal executive order because, and again, this will be tested in courtrooms all over the country because I know there's school boards that are not complying. Like of course there are all over the country. They're not going to do it.
Well, if they want
Because of the
funding,
division.
right? That's what they have.
Well, that's the
the whole
risk.
idea.
That's the risk you're taking.
Okay.
The risk you're taking is that the federal government could say, if you don't comply with this executive order, which you're required to comply with, then we're going to withhold your federal funding that goes to your school division. And we receive it. Most of the federal funding is like special ed and some of the more intensive, like people with special needs. That's where the federal funding comes in. Otherwise, it's state and local funding for your general education practices for the most part.
Yes.
And so, obviously, those are vitally important programs that
Right.
we don't want to lose funding for.
Right.
But I
people
know
don't
other
realize
school
that's what actually a lot of the DEI is for people that are handicapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other school divisions are taking a different approach. I don't know enough about it to sit in judgment of what's the right thing or what's the wrong. I know some people would like them to see them stand up to the president because they don't agree with the policy.
Right.
I think the school board I trust our chair, in particular Kathleen Brown, who I have a lot of respect for. I don't think she would do anything that I know she would not do anything that would harm the students she serves or their families. I think my general impression is they're trying to do what they think is the right thing. I think you have to do it sensitively. I think you have to do it with care. For all the reasons we talked about, my experiences with Pride and with UNCF and with just working with the people I serve, lets me know that there's a lot of people who feel strongly, and I'm one of them, that opportunity has not been available to everyone. And we need to make sure that equal opportunity is available to everyone.
Right.
And maybe that's why it's a change in language that may not actually change the policies. That's another thing that I understand is that they're not necessarily changing the departments, what they're doing. They're just changing the name. I don't know if it's that simple or not, to be honest with you.
Gotcha.
I want to qualify it by saying that.
Yeah, I get you. All right, I'm still trying to figure it out
Yeah.
myself now. I mean, I know the intentions of the whole reason for it, but
I think there's a timeline question. You know,
Yeah.
if I'm being honest, that's one of the, and I don't know because again, I haven't talked to anyone. I don't follow it that closely, but I think some of the criticism that I've read is that the school board didn't take public comment, which it's always good to take public comment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you should. The parents would need to know, I think. Excuse me.
How does it affect the? Yeah, how
Yeah.
do those changes impact the families? I think we need to know that.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So, give me an idea of some of the things that we have coming up in the area right now. First of all, you ran in November. You ran last year, right, for the November election. That's when I met you. But how long is your term in office?
4 years.
It's a 4-year term. Okay. So what events do we have coming up now that you need people to get involved with in the community?
Well, I always would invite people to serve on a board or commission. I'm going to invite you to serve on a board or commission.
What is that?
The city has, I don't know, dozens of appointed boards and commissions. Any interest you could think of, we have a board for it. A Human Rights Commission, a Social Services Advisory Board. I'm just listing the ones I'm the liaison to. Animal Control Advisory Board, Cannabis Advisory Board, Economic Development, Arts and Humanities Commission. Trying to think what else I'm a liaison to. The 531 Memorial Committee. And I could go on. I mean, there's so many boards and commissions. The Library Board, Active Transportation, Parks and Rec. There's so many boards.
So what do you do? Select a board and then?
Yeah, the council will appoint the board, and they're advisory boards, and sometimes more than advisory boards, you know, on a whole host of things that relate to the city. So, and they're very important, and it's a great way to have an impact on your community. For example, if you're on the Parks and Rec board, you know, you advise our Parks and Rec department on their policies and like where to build a park, where to upgrade a park, what programs to have in the rec centers. You know, that's really important stuff.
Okay.
The Public Library Board, the same. You know, Human Rights Commission is very important. And I think they're all important. So that's a great way to get involved. I always encourage people to get involved in boards and commissions. You mentioned the budget hearings is coming up on April 16th and 22nd. And there's another hearing when we vote on the budget in May. And it's important whether you go to the hearing and speak or you call or email me or any other council member and let them know, again, the budget reflects our values.
Okay.
And so, you know, if you think there's something missing, you or anyone else think there's something missing from the budget, or there's a gap, or there should be this program for kids, or I mean, you could come up with anything. More investment in open space. To me, obviously, you know, I'm an arts advocate, so we've done great work in enhancing arts programming in Virginia Beach, and I'd love to talk to you more about how that's, you know, how some of that is actually playing out. But boards and commissions are a great way to be involved.
How do you find out about the boards?
If you go to
committees,
virginiabeach.gov,
okay,
and then you go to City Council, it'll go to board. It'll say boards and commissions. You can search for that, and then there's a whole list. And then you usually need to be appointed by are appointed by City Council. So, you know, if you're interested, then you will let me know, and I would say, Al, we've got openings on these committees. Or you might say, I really want to be on the Open Space Advisory Committee. I don't want to be on the library board. I want to be on open space because that's my interest. So I'll say, all right, well, there's no vacancies right now, but when one comes up, you know,
okay,
we'll hopefully get you in there. So that's a great point of entry. The budget is a great point of entry. I'm excited about things that are coming up, like we mentioned before off air, this emerging Bow Creek Stormwater Park. That's going to create recreational opportunities and, most importantly, protect our homes and lives from floods that could be very damaging to property and safety. But in addition to that, there's going to be a kayak launch there, and bird blinds, and mountain bike trails.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of stuff they're doing. I think they're doing some frisbee, something, I don't know, but all kinds of recreational opportunities. It's going to be a huge park on the scale of Red Wing Park, it's a major new city park coming online that's also has capacity to protect our homes so we don't ever have to go through Hurricane Matthew in 2016 again.
Yeah.
And you've seen, if you've passed Mount Trashmore, you've seen we realigned the stairs and are building a kind of a playground thing up one side of the hill. So there's a lot of renovations happening there. Mount Trashmore is in our district. That's the most visited public park in the whole city, over 1 million visitors a year. Mount Trashmore is great because it's like I almost call it like an old shoe. It's comfortable, and there's no pretension about it, and everybody likes it.
It's familiar. Yeah.
It's familiar.
Everybody.
You just love it.
Yeah.
I grew up here, and Mount Trashmore is like our central park. It's our gathering. You can fly a kite, you can run, you can exercise, you can go on the playground, you can walk, you can
Skateboard.
you can skateboard.
You can fish.
You can't sled, though.
Can you fish?
You can fish.
I used to fish over there.
Yes, you can fish.
My kids. Yeah.
And believe it or not, a lot of people don't know about this, but you can eat those fish. I think up to 2 per month is the max, they say.
Okay.
Because of the potential hazards related to the fact that it's still a historic waste site. But the thing, this is a unique story. I was at Mount Trashmore with this event that was happening, community event. There was a pastor speaking. And I don't know if you know this, but Mount Trashmore was a municipal waste dump, of course. That's why we call it Mount Trashmore. And we celebrated 50 years of Mount Trashmore last year. And it was the first municipal waste dump to public park conversion in the whole world.
Really?
And there's hundreds or thousands of them now all over the world, in Japan and Australia, everywhere, all over the country, all over the world. And the Mount Trashmore was the first one in the whole world, in human history, that we turned a full-on trash dump into a city park that's now the most visited park in the whole city of Virginia Beach.
Right.
And the pastor said, it gives me goosebumps talking about it because I think about it a lot. He said, we got to be like that person who looked at this trash dump and saw a beautiful park. He said, if we can turn this park into, this dump into a park that becomes all this, there's no limit to what we can achieve.
That's right.
Somebody looks at a trash dump and sees a beautiful green space city park. It's the opposite of a park.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. It gives a new meaning to chicken poop, the chicken salad.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Yeah.
And if they can do that 50 years ago, you can't tell me that Virginia Beach can't come together and fix our problems.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a chance, I don't know how long it's going to take for you to talk about this.
You could tell I'm a talker. You're a talker too.
Well, obviously, that's the profession you chose, part of it. So what are you most proud of in your 6 years that you've done in our district?
The things that I'm most...
And I'll let you know if I like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The things that I'm most proud of, and I don't even try to use that word, proud. But
accomplished.
The things that I feel most accomplished about, they're not the things that you see in the newspaper. It's the things that you hear from the people you serve, that they appreciate what you did for them.
Okay.
It's getting that street marking, school crossing repainted. That they have been trying to do for a year.
Yeah.
And couldn't reach the right person.
Right.
And they feel safer knowing their kid is going to school with this freshly marked paint. It's working with Scarborough Square, which is a community in our district that is underserved. And they have a lot of challenges there, such as waste management challenges with illegal dumping. They are under-resourced, they're underserved, at times underrepresented, and it's showing up for them and hearing, and I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but we have, like, thank you for standing up for us,
Yeah.
I'm leaving some because I don't want to reveal, private conversation, but it's
Obviously,
things
yes.
like that. It's being there for somebody when they need it and helping to make things better. And some of them are big things, like our flood protection program is needs to be on schedule, and it's not going to be on budget because of inflation and everything else. That's just a reality.
Right.
But we need to make sure that we are continuing to deliver those flood protections that we rely upon on time. And where we need to meet gaps in the funding, we need to have somebody strong who's going to find a way to make sure those commitments are met. That's a big thing.
Right.
We created, and this is what I want to tell you about the arts, we created a new funding mechanism for arts and culture in Virginia Beach. And part of that mechanism created what we call creative neighborhood grants. And one of them, I was working with Scarborough Square on one of them. And what we did was we matched it's a new grant opportunity for neighborhoods. It's up to $10,000 to do a creative project in a neighborhood, an arts project it could be anything. It could be a concert, it could be a poetry workshop, it could be a mural, whatever. But the neighborhood civic league has to work within the confines of this grant opportunity to do something creative. And for Scarborough Square, I helped to introduce the civic league to an artist that I have worked with, and her name is Poetry Jackson, and she's an amazing artist and community leader. And at the first meeting, I get goosebumps talking about this too. We met at Panera at Lynn Haven, and there was Poetry Jackson and the members of the Civic League. It's intergenerational. And the members of the Civic League, who normally are dealing with things that are very unpleasant, like we talk about waste management, issues around crime, code enforcement, really litter. I mean, just things that are not. And now they're at Panera. They're meeting with this artist. One person's 90, poetry's like in her 20s, and they're planning stuff. And it's just so positive. And the fact that we were able to create this grant opportunity, and then you see the results of it. But before there's a paintbrush pulled out, before there's a microphone plugged in, before anything creative happens, you have this connectedness that's happening that wouldn't happen if it weren't for that grant. And that's the power of art.
Yeah.
But that's something that I'm really proud of. Just this morning, I was at a ribbon cutting for a new fence at the Animal Control and Adoption Center. New fence is so basic, but something that I didn't know. And I mentioned I'm the liaison to the Animal Control division. And one of the things that I learned through that role was that we have a barn. So livestock is, when livestock is rescued, and that could be a pig, it could be a goat, it could be a pony, it could be a cow, I guess. I don't know if they haven't mentioned cow. It could be chickens. When livestock are rescued, they go to this barn off of Bird Neck Road, and there was a fence there, like a vinyl fence with the two panes. But anyway, it wasn't a proper fence. So these animals that were being rescued were now confined to the barn. So unless they were being walked by their caretaker or something, they were not going outside. Isn't that crazy? And what I learned was there was a pig there for a year and a half that never got to go outside. That's not right. And those animals have suffered. So in the budget process last year, I was able to request, and the council supported funds to build a new fence that creates a pasture, so those livestock could go out into the pasture. Now, those are the types of things that they're little, but it's not little to the people that work there. It's definitely not little to the animals that have already experienced abuse and neglect and harm. Now they can roam out into the sunshine. And we literally just cut the ribbon on that this morning. So I'm just listing a few. Those are some great things. But some of the things, too, are what you don't see.
Okay.
We haven't raised taxes. In fact, we've cut taxes. I want to make sure that affordability continues to be at the top of the list and on top of mind, and that we can keep what we earn and we can afford to live here.
Good.
I could go on,
I'm sure.
but you said you tell me if you like it. How did it?
It's very good. There's things I had no idea about. Never knew about the barn on Bird Neck.
Nobody really does.
I'm there every day. Never took a look at it. I will now.
It's in the back. Go back there.
Okay. All right. So
I gotta go.
yes. I want to thank you for joining us on Listen Up.
I'd like to come back.
Well, we'll get you back. We're going to go a little bit more. I just want everybody to get an idea of who you are and what you're doing and what area you are. But we'll come back and talk about more specific things. But anyway, thanks for following us on Listen Up. I'm Al Neely. We'll catch you next time on Listen Up.
Thank you.